Wisdom begins in surrender. Gita, Then and Now, Chapter 2, Part 1. When you admit you don't know anymore, then Arjuna drops his weapons. He looks at Krishna and says, I cannot do this. I do not know what is right anymore. And in that moment, something shifts. This is not the heroic Arjuna who once conquered kingdoms. This is a man who admits he is lost, who stops pretending, who lets go of control. And Krishna does not jump to solve his problems right away. He listens. He lets Arjuna speak. Because the first lesson of Chapter 2 is not about action. It is about admission. It is about the wisdom that only begins when the ego steps aside. Now, you have tried to be strong for too long, smiling when you are tired, working when you are breaking, saying I am fine when you are not. But one day something snaps. Maybe in a meeting, maybe during a quiet evening alone. You feel it. The hollowness, the weight, the silence. And for the first time, you whisper, I cannot do this anymore. You do not need to fall apart in front of everyone. You just need to stop lying to yourself. That is the Arjuna moment, not when he fought, but when he paused and said, guide me. Chapter 2 of the Gita is the turning point, because it marks the shift from noise to wisdom, from pretending to presence, from confusion to clarity. But that clarity does not come instantly. It begins with surrender, not the dramatic kind, but the quiet, honest, tired kind. Then, Arjuna realizes that bravery is not in battle. It is in asking, Krishna, tell me what is right. I no longer know. Now, you might be a leader, a parent, a decision maker, the one people rely on, but even you sometimes do not know, and pretending to know only deepens the chaos. Sometimes the strongest thing you can do is say, I am confused. Please help, and this help does not have to come from others. It can come from within, from the higher voice you have silenced, from the wisdom that has always been there, waiting, just beyond the noise. But it speaks only when the noise fades, and the noise fades. Only when you surrender. Let us be honest. Surrender has a bad reputation. We think it means giving up, but the Gita shows it is the beginning of rising up. Because until you say, I do not know, you cannot learn. Until you say, I cannot carry this, you cannot receive support. Until you say, I am stuck, you cannot move. There is great power in the simple words. I do not know. They strip away pride. They break the illusion of perfection. And they open the door to growth. Think about it. When was the last time you truly admitted, I am lost? Not as weakness, but as truth? Most people fear this admission. But in the Gita, that is the doorway to wisdom. That is where Krishna begins to speak. Chapter 2 is not just about spiritual knowledge. It is about emotional courage. It is about the inner voice that speaks when you finally become quiet. Now, you may not have a Krishna standing before you, but you have something just as powerful. The ability to be real, to admit where you are, and in that space, answers come. Not because you forced them, but because you made room for them. So the next time you feel overwhelmed, do not just push through, sit down, close your eyes, and say, I do not know, but I am ready to listen. That is where wisdom begins. Not in the lecture, not in the logic, but in the letting go. Then Arjuna said, I am your student. Teach me. Now you can say, I am done pretending. Guide me. Because surrender is not the end. It is the beginning of everything you have been searching for. Focus. This is not the chapter of decisions. It is the chapter of asking. It is the chapter of humble surrender. The first step toward real transformation.